Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The series of undiplomatic comments towards Poland by leading Israeli politicians continues. Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke in Warsaw a few days ago about the alleged cooperation of Poles with the Nazis during the Holocaust. Whilst Israel Katz, the acting Israeli foreign minister, said Poles collaborated with the Nazis and suckled anti-Semitism with their mother's milk. In response, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has cancelled the Polish delegation's participation in the Visegrad and Israel summit, which was supposed to begin today in Jerusalem.
After the scandalous words of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which according to the Israeli embassy he did not say, another anti-Polish statement was produced. This time it was Israeli Katz, the head of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he does not withdraw his statement. I am a son of Holocaust survivors and I was even born and grew up in a community made up of Holocaust survivors. The memory of the Holocaust is something we cannot compromise about. It is clear and we won't forget or forgive. In diplomacy, you try not to offend, but nobody will change the historical truth. Poles collaborated with the Nazis, definitely. As Yitzhak Shami said, they suckle anti-Semitism with their mother's milk. On Monday morning, Katz told Israel Radio that the Poles took part in the extermination of Jews in the Holocaust. Poland became the biggest cemetery of the Jewish people. Katz added that anti-Semitism was congenital in Poles before the Holocaust, during and after it. Even before these words, in reaction to Netanyahu's statement and lack of firm response in this matter, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki withdrew from participation in the meeting of Prime Ministers of the Visegrad Group in Israel. The head of the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Jacek Czaputowicz, has been due to attend. The fallout is that the summit will not take place at all. I made the decision that the Polish delegation would not go to Israel. Minister Jacek Czaputowicz will not go. I made the decision because the words of Minister Katz are absolutely unacceptable. Statements by Minister Katz also outraged Polish ambassador to Israel, Marek Magierowski. It is really astonishing that the newly appointed Foreign Minister of Israel quotes such a shameful and racist remark. Utterly unacceptable. Chief Rabbi of Poland, Michael Szudrych, released an official letter protesting the Israeli minister's statement that Poles imbibe anti-Semitism from their mother's milk. Minister Katz offended Polish Jews with his Holocaust comment, calling the original Shami statement unjust even by the standards of 1989. Szudrych said that to repeat them in 2019 is even more unjust today. Chief Rabbi of Poland, Michał Szudrych, also said it also offends us, Polish Jews, who are a part of that society today. The Israeli ambassador to Poland, Anna Azari, was today again summoned to the Polish Foreign Ministry to explain the words of Minister Katz. Those words do not yield any good results, and I hope that Minister Katz will experience that. Today, during the absence of the Prime Minister, who is currently touring Poland, a conference at the Law and Justice headquarters took place, the subject of which was likely to be the crisis in Polish-Israeli relations.
300 days have passed since the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki announced his government action programme called Morawiecki's 5 Campaign Promises. Today he spoke about the fulfilment of those promises during an express tour of several provinces.
The trip began 300 days since the program Morawiecki's 5 Campaign Promises was introduced. The program concerns 5 government projects announced during the Law and Justice Party's convention in April last year. Today, Polish Prime Minister listed the promises that he has fulfilled during his term of office.
The small social insurance institution was implemented on January 1st as promised. Over 130,000 small companies currently use it. This is a benefit amounting to a few billion zlotys over the next 10 years. It will reach over 1 billion per year in the next few years. The second promise was a corporate income tax. It was reduced to 9%. It is one of the lowest taxes for companies. The third point was a set of textbooks and workbooks for every student of elementary school and high school. The fourth was a local government's road fund. When it comes to this point, we went further than promised. And also the Availability Plus program, providing better driveways and elevators for seniors.
During another step off of the tour, in Białobrzegi, the head of the government referred to the government economic politics criticized by the opposition.
What is supposed to grow is growing, such as employment, and what is supposed to decrease is decreasing.
Mateusz Morawiecki referred to the words of the dead former Prime Minister Jan Olszewski.
Polska musi być.
Poland belongs to every Pole, and this is the engine for our actions. We want every Pole to benefit from our economic growth. This proves our effectiveness and reliability.
Wzrostu z rozwoju gospodarczego.
The Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland prepared footage summing up the 300 days of the Morawiecki's 5 campaign promises. The short film is an introduction to Saturday's Law and Justice Party convention.
The Yellow Vest protests in France have been going on now for 3 months, and there are no signs that the protests will be ending anytime soon. Although the number of participants has decreased since its peak in November and December, more than half the French population still support the demands of the protesters.
Last weekend, over 40,000 citizens took to the streets of France to show their displeasure with Emmanuel Macron's policies.
Today we've had a pretty good turnout. We're happy with the movement's 3-month anniversary to make a point that spring is coming, and we've made it through the winter. For social movement, it's been very hard, but we stood our ground. We've been mobilized every Saturday, some at roundabouts, everywhere we've launched mobilizations, and we'll continue to mobilize for the people to change democracy. Today marks the symbolic 3-month anniversary of this movement, and so I came to honor all those who are united, to my family. Most of all, I want to express my thoughts for the injured and to those who are suffering, and also to send a message to those who ridicule us, to tell them that it's not worth it to insult us, but instead help us to find a solution.
Once again, radical groups joined the protests, throwing rocks and bottles at the policemen. Law enforcement were forced to use tear gas and consequently detained 26 people. We clearly see that President Macron does not care about the people. He doesn't listen and hear us out. He does not do anything. He is stubborn, and it will stay that way forever. As long as he continues not to hear us out and our real message, he's going to stay in his spot, and we will stay in ours. The protests will continue, and we don't plan to give up. Over the course of the last 3 months of Yellow Vest demonstrations, 11 people have died, with almost 2,000 injured and 7,500 detained. The protests have cost the French budget 7 million euros. Latest polls show that 56% of the French public supports the Yellow Vest movement.
Poland's largest opposition party, Civic Platform, is continuing its ideological drift to the left. Rafał Trzaskowski, one of its leading politicians and recently elected mayor of Warsaw, has signed an LGBT+ declaration. The document will introduce a number of projects meeting the demands of the LGBT+ community in the Polish capital city.
Warsaw open for everybody. That was the campaign slogan used by Trzaskowski in last year's mayoral election in Warsaw. According to the mayor, by signing the LGBT+ document, he's keeping the campaign promises.
Warsaw must be a friendly, tolerant and open city.
The LGBT+ document contains a number of projects that the LGBT community has been demanding for some time, including anti-discrimination educational programs and an LGBT+ hostel. We were running such a hostel together with the Transfusion Foundation for a year and a half back in 2005 and 2006. We managed to help 68 people who were able to quickly adapt to a new environment. It was made easier because the hostel was up and running 24/7. Voices on the right claim that Trzaskowski's decision is a sign that he intends to continue courting the LGBT+ lobby.
Under the cover of slogans of equality, their real intent is to create new societal and moral norms. Instead of solving people's everyday problems, the City Hall tries to tackle ideological issues that are likely to result in front-page covers and stir up emotions.
Last month, the Civic Platform and the Civic Coalition has signed the so-called January Declaration. It contains a number of policies meant to satisfy the demands of feminist and LGBT lobby groups. The Civic Platform Party is officially a liberal conservative party, and commentators said that party's drift to the left might scare away some of the conservative voters they still have.
Thank you very much for joining us here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather, followed by the business, and then culture, history and the travel.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. A warm night across the country with temperatures ranging between -1 degree along Kraków, Katowice and Wrocław to 4 degrees in Koszalin. Some fog is expected around Białystok. And now over to tomorrow. A sunny all over Poland with some rainfall expected only around Szczecin, Poznań and Bydgoszcz. The temperatures will range from 7 degrees in Koszalin to 11 in the southwest. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. Wednesday will be a sunny day with temperatures range between 5 to 9 degrees. On Thursday we will see more clouds. On the northeast, snow with rain will appear. And on Friday, temperatures will drop to 3 degrees around Białystok and there snowfall is expected. In other regions, temperature range between 6 and 7 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight's our guest Marcin Mazurowski of the United Nations Commission of the Limits of the Continental Shelf. Sir, your work in New York. We spoke recently, and those who look on the internet can find the first part of our conversation, that Poland has rights to the part of the shelf that lies near the Azores. What kind of minerals we are expecting to find there?
The sources which are covered most of the oceanic bottom. Those sources, those mineral sources, are the sulfurs of the metal sulfurs. This is the composition of the many minerals. Is a composition of the many metals. Including the raw metals.
Okay, do we have to build the mines there? Do we have to dig beneath the bottom of the sea to get those minerals?
No, it's not necessary. Those minerals are exactly at the bottom. You know, they form some bobs. You know, it looks like irregular balls, and those sources are covered the many areas of the ocean, and especially in the areas of when the ocean is growing, which is in the center of the Atlantic Ocean is a rift system, which gives the opportunity to grow the Atlantic Ocean, and is a zone which is very rich in the minerals, with the minerals.
Okay, and so we know that those minerals are there. We know that we just have to pick it up from the bottom, but that's the clue, how to do that.
First of all, we have to make an investigation. We have to make an investigation in which areas are richer in the minerals, because of course it's not very regular. But we don't have in Poland we don't have enough scientific capacity to do that right now.
We are not doing that. We didn't have any capacity in that area, and right now other countries moved forward.
Yeah, for example, Germany, which is also like Poland, not connected to the ocean, have several research ships, which can make an investigation in the oceanic area. Brazil or other coastal states, they have several of such ships, but we don't have anyone.
Well, this government is very pushing to revive the shipyard business in Poland. The shipyards in Gdańsk, shipyards in Szczecin are building ships, so perhaps it's an opportunity to do that stuff in Poland. Do we have some other capability that we can develop in this regard?
you know that this is the investigation in the deep ocean. We can imagine the difficulties of this investigation. The same like difficulties of the space investigation, and this is what we know from the past, that all the space activities give us a lot of new technologies, and it will be the same with the investigation of the ocean. And if we will be not active in this area, that will be the problem for the future probably, because we will be far from the other countries which are active right now.
And you are expert in that because you are following this subject, and you know that other countries like Germany, Brazil, Russia, China are pursuing very actively this getting the mineral riches from the ocean's bottom.
Yes, it's in fact some activities, semi-industrial activities are provided by the China, by Japan, by France also, and this is connected to the metal, the minerals rich in metals, but also in the hydrocarbon activities, and because especially the shelf is rich in hydrocarbons, and on the oceanic area, the most of the sources are there.
Well, very, very interesting, exciting prospects. We'll see whether or how soon we will hear about the Polish mineral prospecting in this area. Marcin Mazurowski of CLCC was our guest, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. A sunny all over Poland with some rainfall expected only around Szczecin, Poznań and Bydgoszcz. The temperatures will range from 7 degrees in Koszalin to 11 in the southwest. And now let's see the forecast for our continent. The sun will dominate in Central Europe with temperatures 12 in Prague, 9 in Berlin, 13 in Vienna and 11 in Zagreb. In Scandinavia, rainfall will appear. The highest temperature in our continent will be in Athens, 17 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Opera was brought to Poland just 30 years after it first appeared in Florence by Royal Prince Ladislaus IV Vasa. In 1628, he invited the first Italian opera troupe to Warsaw. For over 170 years, the Grand Theatre has been Poland's leading opera and ballet theatre. It was built between 1825 and 1833 and designed by the Italian architect Antonio Corazzi of Livorno. The building was converted several times. It was bombed during the Siege of Warsaw in 1939 and almost completely ruined. Only the original classicist facade survived. In 1945 to 1965, the company performed on other stages while the theater building was being restored and expanded according to designs by Bogdan Pniewski. The Polish National Opera at the Grand Theatre continues its more than 200-year tradition, producing works by Polish composers as well as world classics. The Teatr Wielki has a main stage in the Moniuszko Auditorium, which seats 1,828, and a small stage in the Muniarski Auditorium, seating 248. The former ballrooms on the first floor house Poland's only theater museum. The former ballrooms, known as Redytowe rooms, are on the first floor and house Poland's only theater museum. In 2002, the Grand Theatre's facade was crowned with a magnificent sculpture of Apollo's Quadriga, as originally envisaged by architect Antonio Corazzi 180 years earlier. The current sculpture is a contemporary design by Adam Mijak and Antoni J. Pastwa. From 1998 to 2002, and then again from October 2008, the general director of the Grand Theatre has been the great culture manager Waldemar Dąbrowski, who was Poland's Minister of Culture from 2002 to 2005. The Polish National Opera's artistic director is the outstanding stage director Mariusz Treliński, who first occupied the post in the 2005-2006 season and was reappointed in October 2008. His opera productions constitute highlights of the operatic repertoire not only in Warsaw, but also in Washington, Los Angeles, St. Petersburg, Tel Aviv, Vilnius, and Bratislava.
My guest today is Paulina, who is a ballet dancer, dancing and working with the opera in Warsaw. Hello, Paulina, and welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Hello.
Could you tell us something about your story and how did you begin your career? How old were you and what was it like?
I started my ballet career in ballet school in Bytom. I've been studying there for 9 years, and it was my first experience with dance. And I graduated from this school, and now I'm dancing here in Warsaw with Polish National Ballet. It's my second season here, and I'm really enjoying this place and this company.
And despite a young age, you've already won quite a fair amount of prizes. Is that true? What kind of prizes were there?
In school, I took part in a few competitions in Poland, ballet competitions. Mm-hmm. On one of them, I won first place. And 2 years ago, I won Eurovision for young dancers in Prague.
So Eurovision is for Europe, for the whole continent?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what was it like when you first started as a child?
First competition was in Łódź. It was for like really young dancers. Then I received kind of mention award, and then I've been in Gdańsk 2 times. It's not international competition. It's just for dancers from schools in Poland. It's a nice experience.
And how do you feel? Because as a ballet dancer, you travel a bit, right, with the whole ensemble. And what is it like? Is there a lot of traveling? And can you also experience the countries that you go to?
Yeah, usually when we go somewhere, we have some time, like few days to visit the city and to see something. But mostly we are busy. So
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And what are the countries that you have visited already?
Last season we went to Dubai, so yeah, it was really amazing. And then we had quite a lot of time to visit everything. And we were also in Czech Republic in Brno. Mm-hmm. And this season, in 2 weeks, we are going to Canada, so it's amazing.
Where about in Canada?
Montreal.
The break is over.
Do you think your profession is a challenging thing? Like, do you feel challenged all the time? Is it hard to be a ballet dancer? I can imagine it is, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's like, I think every day we have to, like, it's really challenging. Every day we have to find motivation and like always something to do more and to learn something more. So it's everyday hard work, but in the same time it's really amazing, and it's really nice that I can do something what I really love. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most important, that it's not only my job, but it's also my passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how many hours a day do you have to train?
It depends, but mostly we work 8 hours every day.
Mm-hmm. Just for the training?
Yeah, just for
Plus the performing?
When we have performance, then we have less hours of rehearsals or training.
And what are you currently working on?
Now we are working on Swan Lake because in Montreal we will perform Swan Lake. So yeah, now we have a lot of rehearsals.
Wonderful. What can you tell us about the current repertoire of the opera?
This season we had Swan Lake on the beginning, then a little bit more contemporary piece, The Rain Will Pass, and Nutcracker, of course. Last week we had The Lady of the Camellia. Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful ballet by John Neumeier, and it's a masterpiece.
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm. And do you feel that the audience here in Poland and abroad is different?
It depends, but I think people in Poland prefer operas than ballet, I think. Mm-hmm. Because I know that in some countries ballet is like more...
People admire ballet more.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why is it like that, but I think that here operas are most popular.
Yes, whenever I go to the opera here, it's almost always very busy, and a lot of people come, and that's actually a good thing. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are standing in front of the Potocki family palace to learn more about the Polish aristocracy. They are the most independent and most prosperous branch of the noble class in all of Europe. However, after 1945, following the beginning of the Soviet communist regime, they were heavily persecuted. Today we will dig more into the details and intricacies of the Polish aristocracy. The Potocki family palace now houses the Polish Ministry of Culture, but Count Marek Potocki was kind enough to invite us to his private apartment where we uncover more about the history of his family and learn how the position of Polish aristocracy shifted over the centuries. One of the most famous wars that Poland is involved in, of course, is World War II. And as we all know, it's pretty disastrous for the country overall. But specifically, how did it affect your family?
Very closely, because my mother and 5 children, I'm the 5th, I'm the youngest, lived in the East, and we were taken prisoners by the Soviet army, by the Red Army, because as the Germans invaded Poland September 1, the Red Army invaded Eastern Poland September 17. So September 1939, they were at our place. And then there's this described in the book, by the way, a very well-ending story of how we were taken more or less prisoners by the NKVD. NKVD was at that time the name of the Russian political police, of what during the later times you would call KGB. And then my grandmother, who was half French, very smart, and my mother organized in a very peculiar way that they were able to give 100 gold rubles to a group of the Soviet NKVD officers as a bribe. And this allowed us, they looked another way when we escaped. And we escaped to the German occupied part of Poland. It was in December, late December, 24th of December 1939. So Second World War did affect us very, very much. My father was absent because he was already mobilized into the army.
So how did it affect your family when you go into the German-occupied part of the Poland?
We remained there. I have to tell you a very personal story, if it is okay with you, a very personal. We stayed there for 2 years, and then my mother realized that for medical reasons, I have to be circumcised as a little boy. And the doctor performed the operation, and then my maternal grandmother's servant, who was fired because he was accused by my maternal grandmother of stealing, went to the German occupiers and said, Anna Potocka is hiding a Jewish boy because I was circumcised. And fortunately, this was not SS, this was not Gestapo, it was the Wehrmacht. And my mother, who was brought up more in the German language than in Polish, explained with great details and very, very powerfully that I was circumcised a few days ago because I still had bandage on me, and I was 3 years old. And this is a very personal story because this is the first time in my life that I realized as a 3-year-old boy that I exist, you know, as a 3 years old, because of the pain, because it was done without the anesthesia. And then a few months later, since my maternal grandfather was helping the local anti-German resistance, he was put to prison in Lublin. Then he was sent to Auschwitz. You know what Auschwitz was? Then he was sent to Buchenwald, back to Auschwitz, and he died 2 months after being liberated in July 1945, because he, as a big man, he weighed something like 45 kilos, so he was very weak. And this is how our family became very heavily affected by the Second World War. And of course, everything we had was taken away from us. You know, I remember in 1945, in 1946, my mother would say, "Don't say your name," because if I said, she knew that if a little boy says, "My name is Potocki," it will mean trouble for a little boy.
During the Second World War, the Polish aristocracy was under the danger of persecution by both Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia. And yet, the Potocki family, living in their family castle in Landshut, decided on helping Jews as well as local Gentiles. As I know, one of your family members during the time of World War II is heavily involved in rescuing the Jews. And I was wondering if you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay, I have to start from the very beginning. Alfred, there were 4 boys.
Right.
Alfred, George, Roman, my father, and Joseph, the number 4. Alfred, because of he was number 1, was, as our family, I can say, law provides for it, had the position of ordinat, which means the inheritor of the major Potocki property called Landshut in southern Poland. Right. Because he had an important position, as a little boy, he was Christian in the presence, or his godfather was the Emperor of Germany, Wilhelm. In 1945, Landshut was occupied, fortunately, not by Gestapo, not by SS, but by the Wehrmacht. Oh, okay. And the fact that Alfred was held to the christening by the Emperor of Germany did play a role. The German generals, marshals, all of them belonging to the old Prussian nobility, pay attention to this fact. This kind of good understanding allowed Alfred to do things which were forbidden. And one of them was to go to the Germans and almost kneel in front of them and say, please let go Mr. Rubinstein, Mr. Rappaport, Mr. Wolf, the members of the Weinzut Jewish community. There were quite a number of them. And as a proof, I have the exchange of letters between my son, Jan Roman Potocki, and an elder gentleman in Israel who confirmed I was saved by the action of Roman Potocki, of Alfred Potocki. And after 1945, the Polish communists said Alfred Potocki collaborated with the Germans, etc., etc., etc. But they didn't say that thank you to this kind of amicable relationship between Alfred and the Wehrmacht officers. It allowed not only to save about 100, maybe 150, maybe 200 Weinzut Jews, but also to organize something which in Polish we call głodna kuchnia. It means hungry kitchen. There were thousands, not hundreds, but thousands of Polish refugees from the east, from the Soviet-occupied part of Poland. And my Alfred organized this enormous effort of providing one meal per day, a good meal with soup and meat and potatoes, to thousands of people for free, you know, as a wealthy man. And he fed daily. He was giving 7 days a week a very substantial meal to thousands of people. This is why I wanted to mention this fact, because what the Polish communists and Polish Bolsheviks said about Alfred was totally untrue.
During the outbreak of the war, are there already family members that are outside of the country or immigrated to avoid it?
As I said before, answering your previous question, there were 4 Potocki brothers. Right. Roman remained in the army, and then he stayed during the war in Romania. And he came back to Poland in 1946 because his wife, my mother, and 5 children stayed in Poland. But 3 other boys, Alfred, George, and Joseph, 2 are diplomats. Alfred was not a diplomat, but they left Poland either in 1939 or during the war. Alfred left in 1944.
The Polish nobles used to form the backbones of Polish society. The Potocki family was one of the most prominent and especially influential within the military. Count Potocki has given us today a very interesting snapshot of Polish history. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello, this is Poland Daily Travel. We're taking a slight detour from the royal route to Piłsudski Square, which is the home of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, amongst other things. We'll be overlooking the square from the Sofitel Victoria Hotel. So stay tuned to Poland Daily Travel for more exciting conversation and walking about Warsaw. Poland Daily Travel, the best travel information about Warsaw ever. Hi, we're back at the Victoria Sofitel, and behind us, the panorama of Piłsudski Square. I've got with me Artur Górniewski and he is telling us some fun facts to know and tell. Not all the facts are fun. Arthur, what's next thing on the agenda? We talked about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We've talked about generally why it's Piłsudski Square. We talked about Saski Gardens, which still remain in some sense, but not in its former glory. What's next?
How about John Paul II, who visited this place twice, provided 2 masses in here. During the first one, 1 million of people gathered in all the area, and that's a quotation. Current president of United States visited Warsaw and referred to this mass, and he used this expression that these people in here did not ask for anything but one, using 3 words: we want God, we want to finish the communist system, we want to go back to our normal democratic capitalist idea that had been developed in here for many centuries, and this is what happened eventually. So we recognize our independence, we connect it with this place. And that's why also current situations very important for our identity, for our history, are represented in here. So there is this stair monument, the black one was erected just a few months ago, and it represents a catastrophe that happened in a territory of Russia in 2010. Polish president with his wife and 94 people on board died over there when they were on the way to commemorate a disaster, a moment when 21,857 imprisoned Polish soldiers were killed in forests of Katyń, were executed over there. And
World War II.
That's World War II.
1914?
That's the beginning of World War II. That's the moment when Polish policemen and soldiers were imprisoned by the Russian troops, and instead of spending the war in prison, they were executed in the forests of Katyń.
Which is near Smolensk.
Which is near Smolensk, where the airplane of our president of 2010 was supposed to land and commemorate the fact, which was Mr. Lech Kaczyński. And he died over there. He died over there to commemorate a very important moment in our history, which became very important for many Polish people.
And this monument was erected. When was it erected, or when was it put into the park or the square?
So it's 2018 when.
So it was just this last year.
It's just this last year when this monument appeared during the summer, and then later on one more monument of Lech Kaczyński appeared in close neighborhood as well.
And the disaster happened in April 2010. Is that right?
April the 10th.
Yeah, and the anniversary of Katyn is when? When is the anniversary of Katyn? April something, the date of Katyn. Do you remember?
So he was supposed to commemorate that moment exactly on the same day.
What is the date? Do you remember?
The 10th of April.
The 10th of April, right.
This is when the commemoration was supposed to take place, and it didn't happen on that year.
Yeah. As we know. So this memorial is to all of the people who died on that airplane, and there were a number of people. This is one of the great...
This is the idea of this monument, is to commemorate all the 96 people who were on this airplane, and there were no differences in between them, because all of them were going over there with the same aim. All of them were on the duty. That was their shift. They were having different... they were having different status. They were coming as lawyers, as church-connected people, as a stewardess, as a president, but all of them died in one moment.
So, and this is one of the, I guess, great political disasters of recent memory.
It became a great social disaster because this moment, this moment divided Polish society. This is a moment when religion got very much involved in all this situation. And I think that for Polish people, we made it through many difficult moments. Last 2 centuries were very difficult for our history, and I don't think that we need any more difficulties since that moment on in between each other, because these were problems in between each other that made us lose our independence in 1795.
In the beginning with the Liberum Veto and other things.
Exactly, that was one
misplaced
Polish
alliances.
man. That was one Polish man against another Polish man, and this is what Tsarina Katerina wrote in a letter, that if you want Polish people to have problems, then make them fight in between each other. And she was right. Poland lost the independence because of her political actions. And Polish people are aware of this. We know the lesson that we took once upon a time, and we hope that we digested it in a proper way, and we are wise enough so that nowadays we will be not standing against each other.
Good and wise advice. We'll be back. Poland Daily Travel. Well, we're talking about a lot of things today, but it's all part of Poland Daily Travel. Stay with us, come back and join us again.